Welcome to the $1 Million Multi-Op Podcast. Here, you're going to find education, entertainment, and a little inspiration on how to get to the next level. Are you a DJ company owner that's looking for the secret sauce? Congrats, you found it.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the $1 Million Multi-Op Podcast. I'm your host, David Osborne, with, as always, BlueprintLearn.com. And on the podcast today, we have Anthony Sevdinoglou. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you for having me.
The audience never ceases to amaze. Never ceases. Now, Anthony, you are in New York. No, not New York City. Long Island, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm from Georgia, and in Georgia, the states are relatively medium to large size down here in the South, but for the most part. And so when we look up at New England, well, the states are kind of small. I was looking at a map today when I was making sure I knew where you were. Is Long Island like basically the same size as Rhode Island?
We're bigger. I feel like Long Island could be its own state, to be honest, versus the rest of New York or even Manhattan. It's like traveling to a new world when I go over a bridge.
Yeah, and it's its own culture. I went to a wedding, maybe 10 years ago in Long Island. It was the first time I'd ever been to a wedding with what we call like the New England style, where you've got multiple dance sets, and I blew my mind. That's your bread and butter, isn't it?
Yeah, multiple dance sets is definitely how we do things over here in Long Island.
Do you get people that are your destination clients that might be from out of town that aren't used to that, and they want something where you're like, hey, can you just play a 3-hour dance set? And you guys just have to be like, well, excuse me, can we throw a cake cutting in there?
Occasionally we get the out-of-towners, but sometimes we get even our locals that think they're back in their college days, that want to go very front heavy with all the formalities and then just leave that long dance set at the end, which if you have the right crowd, you're fine. But if you don't have the right crowd, could be a little tough to keep them going for that hour and a half plus dance set.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes, and you talk to the folks from the Midwest and they're like, oh, it's a 6-hour dance set. And you're like, oh, you might need a different career. It's time for me to go home, I think. Okay, so I want to let everyone know, the listeners, that my interaction with Anthony prior to this podcast is mostly through the Mentor Pod space. And, I've got to know Anthony a good bit from watching him and him asking great questions about business. And one of the things that really stuck out was he's a tremendous business owner. And this is a podcast that really focuses on the business side of entertainment. And I thought, man, I would love to get you on here to kind of talk shop a little bit and kind of dive into kind of some of the stuff that you value as your mindset business-wise. So let's kind of dive in, and let's just kind of start with like a little overview, how you got into DJing, and then really where it went from like just you to something bigger than you.
Sure. So I got into the industry in 2001 is when I was exposed to it. I worked at a gym, and I was a sophomore in high school going into junior year. It was around May or June, and a buddy of mine was messing around with DJing at the time. One of the personal trainers in the gym said, hey, I'm going to be having my college graduation. Do you guys want to come? And my buddy at the time said, sure. Do you want us to play music? And I was like, ooh, play music. This seems interesting. And he said, yeah, I'd love to have you guys come. Why don't you play some music for us? And at no point did I think I was going to get paid for it. We went there. We had 2 Sony Discman, anti-skip. I brought all the CDs I owned at the time. My buddy did the same. It was about a 9-hour event, and I immediately fell in love. I'm a high school student in a college graduation atmosphere, and I was at the party. Just going to the party alone I thought was awesome, but I was watching what we were creating, and we're creating that party. At the end, I was handed $27, and I said to myself, wait, I could make money doing this? Like, this is a thing that you get paid to do? So the next day, I hit the ground running, doing web searches. I've always been into technology. So at the time, Napster, LimeWire, all the music was out. I had a massive MP3 library, and I just needed to learn more. I fell in love. And in that moment is when I established to myself, I don't care about the money. It's not about the money. It's about doing this thing that I enjoyed so much. And the money was like an afterthought for me. And I feel that I've actually kept that same mentality all these years. I worked for a bunch of other guys for the next 4 years. So if you open the Yellow Book or Yellow Pages, which was the way to advertise back then, we were in the Yellow Book and the actual like page books. I worked for a good amount of those companies. And that was also a big step for me in growing, was looking for mentors, always seeking knowledge, always listening, being the quiet guy in the room sometimes are things that I found to be very important. And 2005, June of 2005, I was 19 years old. That's when I officially incorporated. So this year, 2025, will be the 20th year that we've been a business, and my 24th year doing this.
What? Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And when you first said 2021, I was going to ask.
I said the wrong year. Oh my God.
No, I'm sorry. You said 2001. I'm wrong.
Okay.
2001. I almost thought, did you use Ask Jeeves or Bing, or how did you do your search? I remember those days. I also remember my first DJ gig was like a very unofficial DJ gig. It was my parents' wedding. My mom got remarried. It was in the country. It was in like the clubhouse of our pool in my neighborhood. And I had anti-skip Walkmans with the CDs. And the song that made them go was something by Al Herpert. You know, it was a trumpet player thing. It was a weird time back then. It was either that or like Dave Matthews. Anyways, but I love hearing that you came in with a lot of energy and excitement, and that you had the love of the craft first. And then, so take me back 2005.
So between 2001 and 2005, a lot of my buddies, a lot of my friends, we had the same personalities. We were outgoing. We always wanted to be out there on the dance floor, having a great time. So that transition to creating the brand and starting the brand, it kind of just fell into place and happened. It came to the point where I realized I was ready to do this on my own versus working for other companies. And really what fast forwarded that for me was I had bad interactions with some of the other company owners. It'd be things along the lines of, you'll be paid this, and then after the event, we try to negotiate after the fact. So it'd be a lot of switching up what I thought would be happening. And I realized that I wanted to be in control of the outcome. So the effort I put in would also come back at me tenfold. And it was not an easy process. There was a lot of mistakes made, and each one of those mistakes was a lesson. And something I think about is a mistake made more than once is a decision.
Ooh, say that again.
A mistake made more than once is a decision.
Man, I'm not going to think about all the mistakes I've made more than once that are now decisions. Carry on. That was fantastic.
So I was lucky that I had friends around me that were able to help me. And back then, we were just DJs. There wasn't a lot of other gear. There were no photo booths. There was nothing else we were doing. So to expand just meant buying more DJ gear. And I had a 10-to-1 CD burner. So once I made my CDs, I was easily able to duplicate and replicate what I was doing. So now you can just hit copy and paste on a folder. But back then, there was a lot more work that kind of went into it when building out your music library.
Now, were you using the CDRW? Do you have those rewritables?
I didn't use the RWs. I did start with that. I used to like laser imprint my CDs, and I was like, wow, this is great. But we always had 2 or 3 versions of the exact same CD on an event. And it came to the point where I'd just be flipping through a binder. I didn't even have labels on the CDs. I would just have numbers. Ooh. So I would know CD 12, track 4, what it was. And everybody in the company did work with the exact same CDs in the exact same order with the exact same track lists. So if I were to walk on an event or someone else were to walk on another event for our brand, we would be able to step in and know what's on CD 19.
Now, did you create that system, that idea of having the numbers, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you were a systems guy from the start.
Yeah, it kind of built off of the Platinum series. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Platinum series CDs collection. So that was the starting point for me. Is I had the Platinum series, and I said to myself, okay, what about now? Like, how do I continue the Platinum series? So then I went to build that as the starting point, but then I built off of it. So I basically created my own Platinum series.
Oh man. Okay, so anyone who's listening, right? Well, Anthony's, that gift of being a systems person. I talk about this all the time on the podcast. You either need to have that yourself or someone that does, because that is an essential skill set for scaling a company of any kind. Because if you can't replicate what's being done by one person to another person, I mean, good luck. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's very, very, very extra difficult to get that done. What kind of job experience did you have outside of DJing in those first few years, like outside of working for the DJ companies? Because if you're starting when you're in 10th grade, was that pretty much your only gig, or did you do some other stuff on the side as well?
I did too much, to be honest. I took on a lot. So I've always known to have a lot going on. I worked at the gym. I did that for a while. Then I became a mortgage broker. I started off as a telemarketer. So I would cold call people. And that ability to talk on the phone directly translated to my ability to talk on the phone with a potential entertainment client. So they trained me. I would sit next to phenomenal salesmen, and I learned from that, but I also learned what not to do. I got a feeling that you can read the room, when you're being sold. And I was hearing them who was closing deals and who wasn't closing deals. And it was the people sitting next to me that were real and more legitimate with who they're talking to and actually listening that were more successful in booking that client or booking that sale or selling that mortgage. So I took that mentality and that thought process and brought it to the entertainment side of things. So when I ask them, what is your vision? I truly mean that. So when I sit down with someone and I say, tell me more about you and what you want this to look like, that's what really was driving my conversation with them. But from being a mortgage broker, I also went to school. I went to Stony Brook. I have an undergraduate degree in marketing. I also have a theater degree. And from there, I continued my education. I have a master's degree in business education and special education. So I attended Hofstra University for my master's, and my master plan was to teach during the week and DJ on the weekend. And when I realized 7 days a week and trying to have a family, those eventually didn't jive too well.
You need 14 days a week to fit into 7 days a week.
Yes.
Yeah. Man, okay. So that's like that toolbox of skills: special education, business education, a theater degree, marketing degree, and plus the sales experience, being a mortgage broker, and understanding with mortgage brokers, you're understanding financing, you're understanding interest rates, you're understanding market volatility. You are almost getting like the world's best prep school for being a business owner.
And I didn't know it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite classes in school was operations, and it was all about establishing systems and being able to scale. And I remember sitting in that room, and the entire time I was writing notes when the teacher wasn't even speaking. And he's like, "What are you writing?" I'm like, "I'm writing a business plan right now." So it was that moment when I'm like, holy shit. Like, it's not just about what I can do. It's what can I replicate over and over and over again, that allowed me to grow, I feel.
So since you are experienced with business education, you have drive, you have a lot of drive, Um, where do you know where that drive comes from, or you were born with drive like that?
I do know where the drive came from. My parents separated when I was really young. And it was at that moment that my dad literally said to me, you can work and we can stay in this school district, or we have to move right now. And I grew up real quick. And it was in that moment I said to myself, I need to have control. And in order to have control, I need to strive to be as successful as I possibly can. And it was the separation of my parents, I feel, that created this mindset of go, 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 don't stop.
And how old were you?
15, but right around the time I got into this.
Yeah. I was 11 when my parents split. And I think a lot of my drive comes from that as well. There's just a lot of, teenage year, adolescent year, things that happen that, really shape the person you're going to become. And I remember, like my sisters handled it one way. I handled it a completely different way. And I became the person I could bet on when I was 11, so it sounds very similar, that you kind of turn that adversity into a skill set that you were able to build off of. And, since you had such love for the, for the craft when you were a sophomore in high school, did that love translate into love for business and systems and stepping back from performing, or do you still perform?
So I still perform now, but it took me a while to figure this out. In the beginning, I did have this mindset of I need to hold the microphone. I need to be up front. It was a mixture of passion and loving what I do, but also me thinking that that was the definition of success.
Yeah.
And over time, I realized that that is not the definition of success. The focus was on me in the beginning. And it was only when I received this exact phrase from one of my mentors. They literally said to me, put down the microphone. And I did. And so now the way that we do staffing is I'm the last to be staffed on an event. So I still go out. I'll happily go out. I don't want to lose an event because of availability of me not being able to go out. But all throughout my 20s and all throughout my early 30s, I was performing at over 120 events a year.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even work. It was just like, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do 120 events a year. That's just what I'm supposed to do. And then it's when I realized that's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to be an employee of my company. I'm supposed to run my company. And it was in that moment that I did see success in growth. It's because I was the one holding me back.
That's the level up, Anthony. Man, glad you got it. I never know when it's coming. Ian's back there just pushing buttons. No, I can relate fully. And I had a conversation with more than one person that we both know that's in our similar age. I'm 42. We're similar-ish ages. There's especially when you start when you're young, or when you start in a profession where you're performing when you're younger, there is a certain, I think for most people, at least the people that I've talked to, there's a validation, right? I'm performing, I get this love back from a crowd. It feels and fuels this part in your soul. And then it becomes like almost like an addiction. You're like, I can't get rid of this. And that's where you become the system. You are the system. You are the company. And then when you want to scale, you can't just build systems and scale, because you have to take that thing out of you and like put the microphone down, So it's really powerful when you are able to step back, because it's when you're understanding that you can see the long term. You can see what's really important. And what I think is really cool is like when you transition to being the person who everyone else is relying on to cast a vision and to create the vessel that everyone else gets to feel validated within. You're creating that same thing that was great for you in your 20s and your 30s for a whole new crop of people, which I think is awesome. Because it's like the other side of scaling. Scaling is like, yeah, money, that's cool. Yeah. But like, it's also cool that you are able to create jobs for people, create a living for people, create a legacy for people. And like you said, give them that that thing that you got to feel for a long time.
I completely agree. And that's something that's very important to me, is that the team can grow, the team can perform and do what they love and what I love too. Last weekend alone, I did a wedding where I did the sweet 16. It was a sweet 16. So I did her sweet 16 and now I'm doing her wedding. So, and that's happened quite a few times over the past year and a half, 2 years. And to be considered for their wedding after doing their sweet 16 was huge for me. I did something all those years ago that stood out for them. And there are a lot of talented people in my industry, and I'm sure in yours as well. So to be considered and hired for them, it truly means a lot to me. And it's not about the money. It's about them choosing to continue this experience with me and me being part of their lives more. And that's really what is the legacy that I'm trying to build with my brand, is that we're a community where they're all part of the family. They're part of the high voltage family. And that when they come in for their sweet 16, we're considered for the wedding. We're considered for the baby shower. It's when they think of party, they think of us. When they think of milestone events in their lives, they think of bringing us into it. And knowing the amount of other options they have and having them still consider us and reach out to us is priceless for me.
Yeah. And it's, I bet what it is you're giving, like the woman that you did her sweet 16 and now you did her wedding. I'm sure that throughout that process, you gave her and her parents at the time, because they were your clients, that feeling of being included and being part of a family, and that thing that you love to feel yourself, you gave that to them. And that feeling is what brought them back. I'm sure you did a good job entertaining, but is that relationship. When you are scaling, right? So you can scale a system. This is how you wrap your cables. This is how you start up a blah, 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 whatever. How do you pour into your staff in a way that helps you scale relational ability?
So it has to do with bringing on the correct talent. And you could be the best DJ or the best MC, but you wouldn't be part of our family unless you truly understood what it is we're doing. And I keep saying it, the money's a thing, but it really isn't the focus. So when choosing who to scale with, it's finding someone that had the same mindset I had and have, which is focusing on what it is we're really doing. We are part of something that is happening one time for these people. And how can we make it the most memorable, talked about event that they think of for years to come? And my ability to scale is because I've been very lucky with the people around me, and the people that I brought on to the team have that same mindset.
I would say that you did more than luck, though. I bet you've got a good sense of, I call it core values. I call it core value alignment, but there's other ways to frame it. But I bet you've either got a great intuition or you unknowingly created like questions that matched how you felt about things because of your background. Like when you have a theater degree, you've done studies about behaviors because you have to. You have studies about feelings and emotions, and you've got business degree, you've got your sales degree, you've done all of the. I mean, like that's a killer training that you had, but you're getting the right people in the right spot, and I think it's talking about like it's not the money. I would say that's kind of like if you want to build a brighter and bigger fire, you just need more wood. So for you to be able to take the thing that you love about the craft and scale that out to your community, you're like, can we get to both ends of Long Island? Let's go. You need more wood, or in this case, more money. It takes money to be able to generate a larger impact. And I think the money's the fuel. For us to do bigger work, better work, more people involved, it takes more money. So I think we're aligned on that one. I tend to talk about money a good bit, but like, I think it's just because it's the oxygen for running a business. You have to have it. It's the fuel for the plane.
So the money always went back in when it could.
Yeah.
So I was always trying to get the nicest gear I could that I could afford. I wanted to know that I had the fancy lights when I could afford them. So I did try to stay ahead when it came to technology. I was one of the first, or I believe I was an early adapter to the photo booth market. I started off I went into a mall. I saw an Apple Industries photo booth, and I bought one the next day. So I was bringing in these large, hundreds of pounds photo booths, which was ridiculous how I was doing it. I have no idea how I did it. And that's where I started. And so I always try to adapt to the new technology when it's available. But just to get back to the team members, I do create an environment where it's okay to fail. And I'm not hard on them if there is a failure. I always try to find out what is the lesson that we learned and how do we put into place a system, or what can we do to prevent this from happening. And I feel one of the big players that allowed me to grow and be where we are today is I do have a lot of thought going into what can go wrong here. Yeah. And what can I do to solve the wrong thing from happening before it even happens? And a lot of that, it has allowed me to, when that bad thing's about to happen, we already have a plan in place. Go to plan A, go to plan B, go to plan C. So having that plan and preparing for the worst case scenario has helped us a lot.
That's money, honestly. It's so smart that you've thought about all the different possibilities for things and making sure that you've thought through all the possible worst case scenarios. You've prepped your team on it. It's like systems upon systems upon systems. And now, what's really cool is there's a lot of AI tools that can help you get started with building systems. We do a lot of system building over here in our neck of the woods. And I personally am a big fan of system building. But it's funny, you mentioned the large photo booths. I just saw on Photo Booth Supply Company's website, in the past month, that they're bringing it back. It's like a foldable version, though. I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I actually was chatting with my team the other day, and I said to them, everyone has an open style photo booth. What if we just take this thing that's literally in my garage right now? Let's take the dust off of it and bring it back. Mm-hmm. So, I totally believe it.
It's getting cool again. If you search in my town for photo booths, there's some that I've been working on, and one of the Reddit threads are all the cool closed style, photo booths that are at the bars in town. And that's recent. People are excited about going out and going to a bar there's even bar crawls just for the bars that have the closed style photo booths. That's awesome. If you're listening, you want to know the next trend. I'm not saying to get it from PBSEO, but I'm saying maybe consider, once something's done doesn't mean it's done forever.
Yeah. So my earlier photo booth was the Atlanta photo booth.
Yeah. And, Steve Lynch.
Steve was phenomenal. He was ahead of the game when he came out with that thing. So I bought 3 of them. I just jumped right into it. And there's something about closing that curtain and taking a photo with that person you're with. And I think that private moment is something that we don't have so much now. I think a lot of it is open and exposed. So I totally can relate and agree with what you're saying, that having 1 or 2 of that more intimate photo booth experience is on its way back.
Might have to buy one. Uh-oh. Oh man, Anthony. Okay. So because you are the way you think, if I could challenge you, if you had to drop into a new market and you had to start all over again, like I put you in Wichita, Kansas or somewhere, what would be kind of 1, 2, and 3 game plan? Where would you go first to try and get things up and running as fast as possible?
Sure. The first thing I would do is I'd build a network. I would get to know who the other companies are, and not to steal ideas or see how it's more of establishing a community of other people doing what we do and how we can help each other out. So the first thing I would do if I was to pick up and go to a new state is I'd meet with the other business owners. I get to know a little bit about them, learn the market, and figure out ways that we can all grow together. So the other thing I would do if I wasn't necessarily starting with my knowledge, let's say I was coming into this with no knowledge, is not only find mentors and find people that I could follow in my local community, but also on a national scale. And that comes from the Facebook groups. I didn't have Facebook groups when I started this in the early 2000s. No. So I actually started attending expos. And I was attending DJX in Atlantic City in my teens. My dad would take me because I wasn't old enough to go into the casinos. So I've been attending that show just as an example for years. So I would attend the industry expos, get the knowledge, listen to the other people out there doing the thing, and understanding what could go wrong, and back to that other mindset of preparing for the wrong. You know, why do we need backup gear? And it's understanding processes to put in place to prevent that issue from happening. So if I was to start today in another state, another location, I would first kick it off by getting to know and even work with other companies in the area. If I was new to the industry and I just wanted to really start out, it'd be seeking knowledge. It's joining the Facebook groups, attending the expos and the seminars, and listening. And even today, you'll see me sitting in the front row of any expo I can attend. And I will happily sit there. And even if my company's larger than the person speaking to me, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's me learning. And we can all learn from someone, regardless of their company's size. And we all bring so much knowledge and experience to this. And it's a lot of listening that I would be doing, and which I even do today.
Boom. Anthony, that's a killer way for us to end our time together. I encourage everyone out there to be open to new ways of doing things, to listen to people that are near you and around you, absorb knowledge, expertise, and experience from places you don't expect. A lot of people think, oh, only DJ experience yields more DJ experience. But like we heard from Anthony today, so many other skill sets, whether you're a cashier or you have customer service experience, or you worked in a construction crew, like all the different things in your life help you become a better whatever you are next, because you have experience. As long as you stay open to the connections, I think you can really make some awesome fuel for your fire for the future. So Anthony, tell everybody how they can find you on social media.
Sure. So I'm on Instagram, Anthony Sevdinoglou. I'm on Facebook. I'll happily be friends with everyone. You could always shoot me a message. I'd love to help. And that's really where I want to take this next step. Is I want to help grow this industry, help grow this thing that I love. So I'm always down to respond. If you have any questions about maybe growing a multi-op, or where should you start, or maybe sharing with me a failure you may have had. And I'll share with you how maybe I've had that same failure and how I got out of it.
I love that. Thank you guys for listening. Free resources as always at blueprintlearn.com/resources. And we'll see you on the next one.